Reverend Dr. William Glover, and I welcome you all to Life's 10th annual Nehemiah Action. The Interfaith for Empowerment is a covenant between 15 congregations in Lee County working on systemic justice issues, trying to take some wrongs and make them right.
This summer, communities across the country watched the footage of George Floyd dying whilst under the knee of a police officer. The visual hit hard and conversations became all too real. For many of us, the images were not a shock because we have been raised with the fear and mistrust of the police our whole lives. The truth is, Lee County is not so different than the rest of the country. In 1924, the realities of a broken system were evidenced when R.J. Johnson and Milton Wilson, 14 and 15-year-old black boys, were caught swimming with white girls. R.J. was taken into custody by the sheriff's office, but the sheriff's deputy turned the young boy over to the angry crowd. He, just like Milton, was violently lynched. 2 innocent children executed here in Lee County. 97 years have passed. We have seen new laws enacted, new generations coming up in our communities, and new hope. But there are times when our collective memories call back to our parents, warning us that the police are not really there to keep us safe. So when L.I.F.E gathered 300 community members together in small group discussions this year and asked folks, what in our community makes you wake up at 3 a.m.? What awakens your sense of justice? What is the problem in our community most impacting you? It makes sense that the majority of the stories uncovered were related to criminal justice. We heard story after story after story of unnecessary arrests and of unpleasant exchanges between police and people with mental illness. So, when we gathered to vote on what area L.I.F.E would focus on in the months ahead, criminal justice won by a narrow margin over mental health concerns.
As a past administrator for the Lee County School District, I have trained bus drivers and SRO. This is our school resource officers in de-escalating situation with students. I see the need for law enforcement officers to receive training. I believe that we can heal. However, this can only come through policy changes. This means having mental health training, a crisis intervention team training for all law enforcement officers.
The second issue deals with this issue of civil citation, which is a state statute that allows for first-time juvenile offenders, our teenagers, our young people, who commit a criminal act, that if it is a misdemeanor, a non-felony offense, there's a statute on the Florida books that allow for 100% of the time those young people to be issued a civil citation, which is a divergency program, and not be arrested, which an arrest puts them in the juvenile detention center. That does not work well for kids.
I will be honest. The work of being a police officer or a deputy is hard. And we're often called to see the worst moments in the lives of residents of our communities. And I can also share that the relationships between the community and police officers are broken. I think police see so much of the worst of humanity that we come to expect it, and we become jaded. I think the community has so much past trauma that we have a hard time moving forward. But tonight we're here to do just that. We are here to move forward. So we at L.I.F.E want to applaud Chef Marcino's first step tonight, that he is here with us, in front of us here at Mount Hermon Church, but also in front of all 1,200 of you who are watching on Zoom, Facebook, and in watch parties across our county. We at L.I.F.E have spent the last 6 months researching real and tangible steps that our community and our law enforcement agencies can take to move together and move forward. It is because of our sheriff's presence here tonight that we can move forward with that hope, that together we can and will create a better community than those of our past. The sheriff is here tonight at our request to hear the desires of our community. And tonight, we're going to ask him to enact a few small changes to the sheriff's office's protocol as a sign of community, of goodwill, and of moving forward and embracing greater practices. We invite the sheriff's office to be our partners in peace by embracing two critical changes. First, to repair the relationships and trust, and to strengthen relationships between police and the community. We have to know that our police, as we must know for ourselves, are following the law. We at L.I.F.E joined with 10 other groups across the state, and we changed the law to mandate that all eligible children who commit a first-time misdemeanor are given access to a diversion program through civil citations. Unfortunately, in 2020, our sheriff's office arrested 91 children who were eligible for a civil citation. At school, the sheriff's office gave children a civil citation 83% of the time. But unfortunately, once children leave the classroom, they're only issued citations 17% of the time. 75% of the time, the officers decided to arrest the child rather than divert them through a civil citation. Even though Florida law mandates the reason to be recorded, the recorded reason was reason not provided by law enforcement. So to ensure that we can build trust for and with our officers in following our law, we're asking our sheriff to commit to ensuring that all eligible children are diverted rather than arrested. We're asking him to implement a secondary screening tool so that no child will be needlessly arrested. This same strategy is utilized in Pinellas County, where their civil citation usage rate is 99% as opposed to our 42%. Second, we will ask our sheriff to utilize the NAMI Crisis Intervention Team training for all dispatchers and 911 operators, as well as a quarter of all officers. We know that the sheriff's office has their own internal CIT training. However, we're also asking that specialized training be provided by mental health experts. We know the sheriff's office sent a number of officers through the NAMI CIT training. We are asking that that number of officers be expanded through NAMI to reach recommended percentages. This would guarantee that the officers getting the evidence-based curriculum from mental health experts will be the ones to respond to the mental health calls in our community. Surely, if the department found it worthwhile to send 24 officers last year to NAMI CIT training, we know that NAMI offers something also additional that is critical to policing in our community.
The first question is, will you implement a secondary screening tool by August 1st, 2021, where juveniles' cases are screened before they are filed with the clerk of court to ensure at least 90% of eligible children are issued a civil citation?
Yes, with explanation.
Our concern is we know a child with one deputy may end up with an arrest record, a child with another deputy, or even that same deputy on a different day may be issued a civil citation. the secondary screening would help to solve that. Would you support establishing a secondary screening as described?
I do support that. We were at 44% originally. Now we're at 73%. I will tell you that sometimes there are certain things that are out of our control, such as if a parent doesn't cooperate or if the child is not eligible for that citation.
Yes.
But if eligible, I fully support it.
And you would have a secondary screening to make sure that happens?
Yes, sir.
Will you train 25% of your officers in every zone and all dispatchers and call takers in a 40-hour crisis intervention team training locally through NAMI by July 1st, 2022?
So I'm going to tell you no, but yes, because yes is meaning that I want to train all my officers, not 25%. I want all of them.
Sheriff, our 1,200 plus constituents listening in tonight, I would be happy to hear that you will have 25% plus trained, but we're asking that you do that with community stakeholders, that you actually use the NAMI training because they are the mental health experts, and this improves the relationship and the trust with your community partners, and to help the mental health professionals themselves establish better programs in this community. So will you use NAMI in this training? It's for at least 25%.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Sheriff Marcino. Let's give Sheriff another round of applause, and we are grateful tonight for his participation with us.
There are two asks that were put before the sheriff tonight. The first ask was that he would agree to having his department issue civil citations 100% of the time for first-time juvenile offenders, and also that there would be a screening on the questionnaire if for some reason a sheriff did not issue a civil citation. And that is major for our community. Most of the children who get arrested for misdemeanor offenses are black and brown. So this means hundreds of black and brown children on an annual basis, rather than being arrested for a misdemeanor offense, will have an opportunity to be diverted through a civil citation program and be spared a criminal record. You say, why is this important? Well, number one, it reduces the likelihood that they'll end up in prison by 50%. Number two, it saves their future, because with an arrest record, they will have problems getting into college, vocational schools. They'll have problems joining the military. If it's a felony offense, they will have issues getting jobs. So it is a ripple effect that we are preventing from happening in the lives of our children. This is why this work for justice is important.
I know you, like me, are here because you want to see a community where everyone has a decent, affordable place to live.
Our organization has put forth a housing initiative called an Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And the sole purpose of that housing initiative is to make certain that people in the city of Fort Myers who have a median income of $50,000 for a household of 4 can afford housing inside the city limits of Fort Myers. The city is proposing a counter housing initiative called workforce housing. That sounds great, but let me tell you what that is. That's an initiative where they provide housing for people making $80,000 to $100,000 a year. And that really isn't what's bad about it. What's bad about it is they're going to subsidize that housing with a tax credit, a tax voucher, which means people making $50,000 or more who can't afford housing are going to be subsidizing the housing of people who make twice as much money as they do and can currently afford housing at the market rate.
Our efforts began in 2018. We gathered hundreds to share their stories, and we heard from too many families in Fort Myers who could not afford a place to live. But Teresa Watkins Brown and then Council Member Kevin Anderson came to our February 2020 L.I.F.E rally. There, both committed to supporting an affordable housing trust fund, and while we disagreed on a dollar amount and timeline, both agreed to designate the funds to those earning below 60% of the area median income. We felt hopeful, but nothing happened. The other city council members finally said they would come to the action in early March. In private meetings, they shared our concern for affordable housing, and City Council member Terrellyn Watson told us that she would support an affordable housing trust fund and would move it forward. Another glimmer of hope. But it didn't happen. No council members attended our Nehemiah action in March last year. What did happen? Well, in February of 2020, City Council member Johnny Streets took the idea of an affordable housing trust fund to City Council and asked the city to work on it. He made a motion to work on an affordable housing trust fund that passed unanimously. But again, there was no action, no ordinance for the trust fund. In June of 2020, while the city was facing the COVID crisis and the community was demanding housing, city staff approached the Southwest Florida Community Foundation and asked them to come up with a proposal for housing for people making 100% or above the area median income. Nothing from L.I.F.E's plan was included in that proposal. We are about to get a new city manager. City council members need to make their priorities known. Approving an ordinance for an affordable housing trust fund that is funded yearly to support building rental housing for families earning less than the area median income will help set the stage for our new city manager. Please, no more delays.
So, this is not a new conversation. We've been having this conversation for 3 years now. The things that I have said tonight comes as no surprise to nobody present who's been on either side of this issue. But we have asked our elected officials here tonight to ask yet again, let's move the city forward to secure affordable housing for its residents. Mayor Anderson, first question, will you instruct the city attorney to draft an affordable housing trust fund ordinance by the city council meeting on May 17th?
Yes.
Okay. It's a clear ask and a clear yes. Thank you, Mayor. Second question. Will you ensure the housing trust fund ordinance comes before the city council for a vote by end of July?
That I cannot ensure.
Okay. Can you put it on the city agenda to appear on the agenda by end of July?
That I can do.
Will you ensure city tax dollars used for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund will not go to those making more than the area median income?
That I cannot ensure.
Why could you not ensure that dollars set aside for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund not be used for those making more than the area median income?
I can't do that until this goes before council and it is approved.
Okay. Then can you be a champion with your influence on the council to assure that Affordable Housing Trust Fund dollars do not go towards those making more than the area median income?
I can say if this is passed by the city council and they assign a dollar amount to the trust fund,
that yes, I will be an advocate that those dollars are used for what the council intended them to be used for.
Will you use your influence to pass the ordinance once it comes before the council?
I want to answer yes. We're having a change in leadership, as was mentioned. It's hard until we know what that leadership looks like to commit wholeheartedly. Am I an advocate for affordable housing? Yes. Will I advocate to do more? Yes. Will I advocate for this to get passed? Yes.
Okay, now, and again, and we can receive that, but just a point of clarification, your comments were in terms of a new hires in reference to the city manager, okay? And the city manager receives his directions from the council.
Yes.
So you don't have to wait for a city manager for this to be a priority with the council or even with yourself.
Okay. What I'm trying to get at is we don't know what the city manager who gets, when we hire a new city manager, what they will be bringing to the table as far as addressing affordable housing. I can tell you that that was a priority, at least from me, and I believe from the other council members. Affordable housing was a priority for all the candidates to respond to as to how they would address it.
Okay. So what I'm really getting at, and I know we're parsing words here, Mr. Mayor, is that we don't believe the city moving forward and deciding this is contingent upon the hiring of a city manager. We view this as an action where the city manager would be taking directives from the city council.
And I'll concede to that. That's correct. And again, if the city council passes this, which I will advocate for, then it will be put forth to the new city manager as policy.
Okay. Then we accept that the mayor has given us a clear yes on all three answers. Let's express our gratitude to Mayor Anderson. Hearing our local officials say they're advocates for public housing, we've been hearing it for 3 years. No one has taken their advocacy to bring it to the council to be decided. And we want to see that next step action. At this point, advocacy is not enough. We need action. And I'm saying that in regards to all of the council members who in private have said to us they support this initiative. Inaction is no longer palatable. Thank you.
There is also a biblical story called the story of the persistent widow. A widow came before a judge and kept begging, "Grant me justice against my adversary," she said. And the judge did nothing until finally the judge says to the woman, "I will give you justice so you will leave me alone and stop bothering me." Tonight we made some movement. You know we did. You all showed up because you wanted to participate in this sacred work of justice. And we made some great movement. We heard the sheriff who gave us 2 yeses. And we've also heard our present new mayor, Mayor Anderson, give us 3 yeses, which is significant. But I also want to highlight tonight that city officials were invited to the Nehemiah action before to not show up because they did not want to break what they call the Sunshine Law. So L.I.F.E respected that and took the necessary steps to make certain that we could have a meeting with all of our city council present. Do you see what happened tonight? Do you see what happened tonight? There are some council members absent, not because of a conflict, not because they had somewhere more important to be. They aren't here because they really didn't want to be here. But we're thankful tonight for our mayor who showed up. We're certainly not thankful that Lynn Botch, he left. He was here, but he left. Darla Bunk was on Zoom. She left. Teresa Watkins Brown didn't show. Councilman Streets didn't show. Terrell Watson didn't show. And Fred Burson didn't show. But we did all of this so that they could be present. So we need our officials, we want them to know that we mean business. So here we are tonight, some 1,200 voices. We're not going to get justice because we make a good point. We have already made all the good points. We will not get justice because we deserve it. If we have always deserved it, we will not get justice because we showed up once. Anyone can show up once. So we're going to get justice because we bother the judge until they say, I will give you justice so you can leave me alone.
We invited all of the council members to be here tonight, and only the mayor showed up. So people who represent, so councilmen of your district didn't think this issue was important enough to show up here tonight. You need to call their personal phone numbers if you have them. You need to call their work office if you have them. And on May 17th, L.I.F.E is turning out some folks at the council meeting, 4 p.m., to make certain that they follow through on getting this on the agenda. And we want to invite you to join us. So overall, we had a very successful action. We had about 60, 70 people in-house tonight, but through Facebook, Zoom, YouTube, we had 600 watches, 600 screens, and many of those screens had house parties of 3, 4, 5 people. So overall, as of now, we're estimating that there was between 1,000 and 1,500 people engaged in this action. This is the work of justice. This is why it matters. Dr. King said, preachers can't just preach the glories of heaven while people are living in an earthly hell. We have to address the social conditions and situations of our people. And that message is centered in the Bible and is the thread of justice throughout. God bless you. Thank you for joining us.
We'd like to thank you for being part of the worship experience at Mount Hermon Ministries. If you have an announcement, fill out the form on our website. Make sure to stay connected with us throughout the week online. We believe God has something unique to say to you, and it's our hope that you feel His love even stronger today than ever before. Thank you for being with us, and have a great week.